Shrimad's Divine Grace, founder of Iskana Bhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Shrikunja Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladeva Subhadra ki, Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Gonitai ki, Nitai Go Premanand. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the Lord and speed of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Todayam Udiraya Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam. Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 32, is that right? Text 32. Deva Datam Imam Vinam Deva Datam Imam Vinam Swara Brahma Vibhusitam Swara Brahma Vibhusitam Murchaitva Harikatam Murchaitva Harikatam Gayamanas Charami Aham Gayamanas Charamyaham Devadatam Imam Vinam Devadatam Imam Vinam Devadatam Imam Vinam Svara Brahma Vibhusitam Svara Brahma Vibhusitam Svara Brahma Vibhusitam Murchayitva Harikatam Murchayitva Harikatam Murchayitva Harikatam Gayamanas Charamyaham Gayamanas Charamyaham Gayamanas Charamyaham. Please chant. Devadattam imam vinam Svara Brahma Vibhusitam Murchayitva Harikatam Gayamanas Charamyaham. Deva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Sri Krishna.
Sri Krishna.
Datam, gifted by. Imam, this. Vinam, a musical stringed instrument. Svara, singing meter. Brahma, transcendental. Vibhusitam, decorated with. Murchayitva, vibrating. Harikatam, transcendental message. Gayamana, singing constantly. Charami, do move. Aham, I. Devadattam imam vinam svara brahma vibhusitam murchayitva harikatam gayamana saryamyaham. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And thus I travel, constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called the veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. Please repeat. And thus I travel, constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called the veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. And thus I travel, constantly singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called the veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. Purport by his divine grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The musical stringed instrument called the Veena, which was handed to Narad by Lord Sri Krishna, is described in the Linga Purana, and this is confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami. This transcendental instrument is identical with Lord Sri Krishna and Narad, because all of them are the same transcendental category. Sound vibrated by the instrument cannot be material, and therefore the glories and pastimes which are broadcast by the instrument of Narad are also transcendental, without a tinge of material inebriety. The 7 singing meters, namely Sa, Sadya, Ra, Rishabha, Ga, Gandhar, Ma, Madhyama, Pa, Panchama, Da, Daivata, and Ni, Nishada. These would be the equivalent in English as Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La. Huh?
No.
How are you saying?
No, they're more mathematically correct.
Okay, but
they're not.
yes,
They're not.
but they are pointing out divisions of sounds created by the vibrations, right, of the Veena.
Wow. Yeah, they're not. These are mathematically correct.
Okay.
Those are not mathematically correct.
All right.
Yeah.
But they are, it's just like I'm comparing one person of a human race to another person of a human race. They may both not be the same thing specifically, but the categories that they are in is the same.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I'm
both
saying?
humans.
It's a way of measuring differences of sound.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay.
Excuse me.
That's right.
Okay.
Are also transcendental and specifically meant for transcendental songs. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Sri Naradev is always fulfilling his obligation to the Lord for his gift of the instrument, and thus he is always engaged in singing his transcendental glories and is therefore infallible in his exalted position. Following the footsteps of Srila Narad Muni, a self-realized soul in the material world should also properly use the sound meters, namely Sa, Ra, Ga, Ma, etc., in the service of the Lord by constantly singing the glories of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshusam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, I am totally unqualified to speak on this subject matter, and as it sounds, you may know more about this particular subject matter than I do. That meter established in Vedic, say, melodies are used to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, what I have taken to be significant is trying to repeat the melodies as we have heard them. That's why it's very important to hear when the chanter is chanting, to be listening to the melody he is singing by, so that when we repeat the melody, we don't repeat our own melody that we think would be better or that we'd like to hear sang better or worse or whatever, but that we repeat what they sing. And so it is with the philosophy as well, that we repeat what we've been heard, in that way it continues in its original state. There's the story of, what is it, the telephone call or something? The telephone call. One person calls and tells a person a story that they've heard, and then that person calls another person and tells that story, and then by the 10th phone call, completely different story. So with Krishna consciousness, we don't want that to happen. We want to retain the truths. And see too, this is how Srila Prabhupada is revealing the significant importance of this in the way that he reveals these scriptures word for word in every one of these verses and in every one of his books, so as to clarify exactly why he translated them into the words he did and gives the word for word meaning of each word. So we are very fortunate in that way to know that this philosophy is being preserved in its original state. I don't know myself the various melodies and meters that are used, you could say professionally or by, very advanced Vaishnava devotees. I just sing the melodies the way I've heard them, and it will probably take me another life at least to be able to learn all the intricacies of Vaishnava culture and the knowledge of the musical. I took music lessons here as a young boy. But just as we're seeing here revealed that even this musical instrument he's using is not of an ordinary nature. And this seems to suggest as well that Krishna could have spoken this Veena into being, but he empowered it with his own sound vibration. What do they say? Singing the transcendental message of the glories of the Lord, vibrating this instrument called a Veena, which is charged with transcendental sound, and which was given to me by Lord Krishna. So the person, obviously, who he's saying did the charging was Krishna. So Krishna, by charging it with that, he gave it the quality that he is. Just like what comes from Krishna's body retains its quality. So that sound vibration that Krishna empowered this with makes it, this is described as being invincible. That's the nature of the soul as well. See, so if we are using musical instruments here, we're learning to use. There, the instruments will be made of the same eternal substance that we are made of. Their bodies are made of. This morning I was meditating on Lord Chaitanya in how that Krishna and Radharani appearing in the form of Lord Chaitanya are manifesting a form of mercy that Krishna doesn't reveal individually in the form he takes as himself on the battlefield. Jai Shri Radha, Jai Nigina, Jai Baladev, Jai. Although we could say, he does reveal himself to Arjuna. But this form that he's revealing, this mercy that we are getting in the form of Chaitanya is such that is the enabling factor that allows us to enter into this deeply philosophical paradigm. All of these planets are different paradigms. every single one of them, has an environment specifically created for the purpose of the specific souls that are being sent there. Some of them for punishment, some of them for pleasures, and some of them to carry out the Dharma, which our planet is, which makes it a portal. But see, as it is with Balaram and Krishna, as the question was asked, if God is all-powerful, then can he create something so heavy that he can't lift it himself? And the answer is yes, he could, and then Balaram would lift it.
Okay.
So Balaram is Krishna's strength. So Krishna empowers that manifestation of his strength in that form of Balaram to reveal the completeness of that particular aspect of his personality, that strength, which is not magnified as much in that personal form that he is in playing his flute. Just as normally here, you don't see a flute player having the same normal musculature as you would see someone who is militarily minded,
Okay.
practicing to become on the battlefield, to battle on it, right? So similarly, Krishna manifests these various aspects of his own personality. So when he comes in the form of Chaitanya, see, with Srimati Radharani there, as the absolute completeness of love, which combines mercy. Love itself has the completeness of all the various branches that come from that divine love, which is at the top. And mercy is next to that, right? And in that completeness that it is, in Shrimati Radharani, she manifests that in the body with Lord Chaitanya and with Krishna's strength as well in the same body. So then, Lord Chaitanya, as an expansion of his own mercy, then reveals through Lord Nityananda, even, see, just like the strength he is of Krishna, more magnified, the mercy he is of Srimati Radharani and Krishna in one body is more magnified in Lord Chaitanya. When and this is revealed in Chaitanya Leela, when Lord Nityananda takes the hit of a wine bottle, breaking his flesh by Jai Vijay. In this Leela, it is the last pastime carried out by the guards of Vaikuntha, who took residence as three demons, right? Hiranyakasipu, they were brothers. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakasipu were brothers. Then, with Krishna, that was Krishna Leela. Then see in Lord Chaitanya, they also take residence as two demons, Jai and Bija, Jagai and Madai. That's who it is, Jagai and Madai. And I think it's Jagai who breaks the wine bottle over Lord Nityananda's head. This is to reveal how much mercy. You could never do that to Krishna. Krishna wouldn't allow you to do that. He doesn't even allow cheating. If you play a game of chess with Krishna and you cheat, you're not going to leave that game alive. That's also a pastime. So see, he reveals the kind of mercy he is revealing by taking residence with Srimati Radharani in the same body as Lord Chaitanya, and then to magnify that mercy even more, revealing as well the Vaishnava perspective towards an enemy putting harm on you and someone else. Because in a sense, okay, Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, they're one. They're non-different. But they're manifesting as two separate persons for the sake of revealing philosophical truths about. We have a principle of ahimsa. Ahimsa towards myself. But if you try to do harm to somebody else, one of the devotees, then I oblige myself to protect the devotees. So if someone wants to hurt me, I don't, as a Vaishnava, I can show no resentment or let them do whatever they want to my body. It's a dead piece of flesh. But if they want to bring harm to another devotee, then the Vaishnava attitude is, I will do everything I can to protect them. So this philosophy is revealed in this hitting over the head of Lord Nityananda. And Lord Chaitanya takes out his chakra, ready to cut his head off. And Lord Nityananda then, with this attitude towards himself, being he's taking on the attitude of ahimsa. Here he is the one beat over the head, yet he takes the form of mercy to beg Lord Chaitanya not to kill him, not to punish him in this way. And that if you punish him in this way, then in this age, all of them have to be destroyed. Yeah. See, the whole society is engaged in activities contrary to Krishna's teachings. So, as it is to hit another person, he doesn't know he's hitting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's put in that darkness of illusion because this was a Leela predetermined when the four Kumaras put this curse upon them that they had to take birth as demons. On the previous birth, he took birth as that demon. Lord Krishna gave him the ability now to take birth and become a pure devotee. So this form of hitting Lord Nityananda on the head with a wine bottle brings out a very profound aspect of present-day Krishna-conscious philosophy that we hold. So we would beg Krishna's mercy for those that do harm to us, as Lord Nityananda is revealing. But Krishna takes the act of wanting to protect the devotees. So both aspects are there in the same person of Krishna. This is his mind, this is his happiness in the form of Lord Nityananda. This is his strength, this is his joy. And he reveals. See, when we get this knowledge, not only by study, because by study we take it at face value, but by association of devotees who have been taught to be able to see and read these revelations given through these pastimes, then we get vision to be able to see also what is being said. It's not just a bottle being hit over somebody's head, but it's a total revelation of philosophical, deep philosophical, supposed to reveal to devotees the mentality we are supposed to ourselves hold towards those who take offensive acts against us. And so when we become perfected in that purity of love for Krishna, then like Lord Nityananda, we will allow them to do whatever they want with our bodies. Just like who was Haridas Thakur. He was dragged through 22 cities, being whipped and beaten. But Krishna himself was taking the pain. He didn't feel it. And so then when he came to find out that with him being able to endure this and not die, then they would be punished by the governor who had sent them to punish him to death. So then he felt bad. So then he would take his own life for the sake of keeping them from having to suffer. This is the mentality of a devotee. This is what love does to a soul. It pushes it to do things that it wouldn't do for itself, for others. That's the nature of love. That's what it is. And I'm not saying I've come to that stage yet. I'm still predominantly controlled by false ego still myself, but I know the way. So this Krishna consciousness movement gives us a way to break our own false egos, but we have to apply it every day. And from what I'm seeing, most of the devotees, more than half, this is understatement, are not eating the whole ISKCON sandwich.
Okay. You mean we all basically are all Uttama Adhikara?
No, I say we're not eating the total sandwich means there's more to taste of ISKCON, the experience of ISKCON, than what we're fully getting at this particular moment in time. One reason, because there's not enough devotees taking part. Another reason is those of us who are taking part are so full now. We have what's called a skeleton crew. So we have most devotees doing more physical labor than normally would be required, which pierces into their reading time, chanting time. We would be going out in a group as a group out in the streets at least once a week together. But it used to be a daily activity. We would be reading together Bhagavad Gita in the evening. All these different things we would be doing that would be giving us the complete ISKCON experience. But it is so powerful, a movement, the activities that the soul engages in it are so powerful that even engaging in a little bit of them, a little part of them, gives us a safety against the illusory potency of Maya that we would otherwise be led into if we weren't spending that amount of time becoming free from the illusory potency. So while we are engaged in the reading, we are free from the illusory potency, but it also gives the effect of having a long-lasting effect by the fact that we think about the things then through the day that we've read about. And that keeps our minds clearly intact with that eternal. Could you imagine being given, what would that say automatically if Krishna's giving you an eternal instrument? That seems to be suggesting that he's giving you the life that you have is eternal. He's giving you something eternal that requires use to be useful. Then it would seem the suggestion there is that you're eternal also. And that's the stage Narad Muni is in that self-same body. He can come and go. Wow. And then see, by revealing this as well in this verse, we see how adept he is at the use of this particular instrument. Revealing, as you said, the various perfect meters, how they have been set up. So there are so many sciences. Astrology is a science. Mineralogy is a science in Vedic culture. Medicine is a science. Astronomy is a science that is incorporated into astrology, because what they have divided with their lack of knowing where astrology comes from, they have taken away the knowledge of the influence that these planets have upon our planet, and every one of them having a particular type of influence. The influence also coming from the outer coating of the universe, that is false ego. So even demigods have false ego. In fact, it's possible that their false egos are even the strongest in the universe, because they are looking at themselves as the controller, and Krishna is granting them that as a reward to believe that they are. See? It's an illusion. Heaven is an illusion, given as a reward. Much like Disneyland is an illusion.
Temporary.
Yeah, much like a TV screen is an illusion. Just a bunch of lights going on and off. A switch telling it to either blink or not blink. All these pictures we see, too, with movies, just a bunch of pictures flashing. But the pictures are just thousands of lights, in some cases maybe millions, of just a switch going on and off. Either color or not color, on or off, red, white, blue, green. And in a sense, that's an illusion. But all these illusions create experiential moods within us that we experience by exposing ourselves to these things. Some of them for the good, some of them will lead us into detrimental experiences of suffering. But that's the same way that this internet can be good, or it can be used to cause detrimental suffering. And all the living entities that don't have self-science, self-realization, that are not even aiming towards that end, what do they have to offer? But that which keeps the materially bound soul materially bound. Encapsulating themselves, which keeps them prisoners, believing themselves to be exercising a form of freedom. It's like a fish in a fishbowl, swimming the entirety of his ability, thinking he's totally free inside of it, like a bird in a cage. Believing ourselves to be free by the exercise of the things that keep us prisoners. When looked at from that perspective, the human condition is kind of sad. How many people out there are realizing that the senses of the physical body are not something we should be serving? We don't even serve our own minds, which is what the chanting is all about, controlling the urges of the mind, the belly, the genitals. It's all about learning real control. When one can learn restraint, then one doesn't consider the loose activity unrestrained as some kind of freedom. That's not freedom. And so then when we learn that restraint gives one freedom by the ability to use one's senses in the way they were meant to be used for. Because the same way we're experiencing so-called pleasures with our involvement with the material energy, just imagine what the soul proper. See, if you and I touch that vina, just to touch that Veena. It would go beyond, with the little finger we touch it with, that pleasure we are believing ourselves to be provided by what we call sex indulgence. Just to touch that Veena. See, we don't know where pleasure is coming from. That's the nature of the soul. Same substance, Krishna gave him that. And so, see, he can take the same substance that Veena could be looked at as a living being. Same way, that Panchajanya that Krishna blows, that flute that Krishna blows, they're living beings. They are themselves souls. So, everything in the spiritual world is of that nature. It is alive. The musical instruments themselves are living beings that take pleasure in creating sound. So the gopis, they look at this flute and they say, who could this flute be? That Krishna's taking it into his mouth and producing such a sound that's attracting everybody in the whole city hears this sound. Well, the most beautiful women of the city, they drop whatever they're doing. They're sleeping with their husbands. They leave, you get up from their bed and go to hear this sound in the forest. That's the flute, though, is a soul that Krishna is empowering with the ability to create this sound. And then he equates it to us chanting, that our chanting becomes so pleasant to him that he equates it to the sound of his flute. Can you imagine us repeating the same melody he created and gave when he started this movement in this body of Lord Chaitanya 500 years ago? To hear us singing it now in our bodies as Paramatma. This is his experience. How pleasant it is for us to continue it as he gave it. So that's why this important, significant statement by Srila Prabhupada, as it is. Would you come to love that term? As it is. When somebody cooks according to the way they've been taught, and they know the flavor it's going to produce, they produce it as it is, given in the way, in the original form. That's what the soul is, in its original state. It is as it is. I am that I am. So that we are what we are. But we keep believing we're something else. What do we say? I'm cold. I'm hot. I'm old. I'm young. All these things we believe we are. I'm sick. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm weak. No. Your eternal soul that has nothing to do with any concept whatsoever that we have come in contact with in this material world. The consciousness has to be opened up to what eternity means. And then the soul can experience itself. That's what the meaning of self-realization is. And my God, then Krishna handing you, just imagine, Krishna handing you an eternal instrument, the senses of which you have a body to know, because Narad has also been put into an eternal body. That form Narad has. And he's being handed a body that is offering itself as much pleasure as he is himself experienced from what he is himself made of. See, like we take pleasure in playing these musical instruments. It's a pleasurable experience, right? But what if that substance was made of Sachidananda? That's the instrument, not wood. not what the cymbals are brass, you know. But what if those chimes were Sachidananda? Woo! Can we imagine what it would be like to touch Satchidananda? And that's what Narad Muni is being given this form of, as this Bina that Krishna has handed to him. This Bina. So see, we might take the exchange amongst ourselves of an instrument. If I hand you a set of cartels, it just seems like an ordinary exchange, right? But when Krishna gives you an instrument that he has himself empowered with his own sound vibration, that's not an ordinary exchange. Even simple exchanges in the spiritual world are of a completely different nature. He's having a relationship with music, having a relationship with the soul that the music is coming out of. Everything is relationship there. You imagine? We talk about having a relationship. I play an accordion, my main squeeze. Right. But, in effect, that's what they're having in the spiritual world. A chair there is a live, living being, in the form of neutrality, as described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But it offers that form of neutrality, and we see it happening in this world. These people that we're engaging in Agata Sukriti, it is a form of neutrality. This dais right here is offering service to me, right? I'm a human being, but it is also a form of life. Came from a tree. And the service that it's offering now to me, because I'm giving Bhagavatam now, flowing through me. This same tree offering me the opportunity to offer Bhagavatam is getting credit also. That's Krishna's mercy. See, so not only does he offer protection, in all the processes he offers as means. He offers even to those that don't have any intent. You think this tree, in its manifestation, with its dormant, it's not really dormant. The tree, the consciousness of a tree is not really dormant. A tree is sensitive to those human beings it's coming in, the birds it's coming in contact with. It's even sensitive to the thoughts of human beings. But it doesn't enter into its consciousness of being a servant, even though it is being a servant. So, this is called Agata Sukriti. They gain benefit without even knowing. So a devotee, as yourself, goes out, somebody does you a favor, you might yourself not even think of it as anything. But Krishna is going to accredit them with having offered help to a devotee. This is the mercy of Krishna. This is the kindness. This is the love of Krishna for his devotees and for those that his devotees are trying to attract. He's the force in you, attracting them to you for the sake of you being able to give him to them, Krishna to them, in whatever form might be most attractive to them. Have you read about Mother Mohini? In that form in which she was holding the nectar churned by the causal ocean. You know about this nectar. They're still drinking. This is the nectar they're drinking in the heavenly planets to gain the length of time they live. It gives a person, for every cup you gain the strength of 10,000 elephants. That nectar, she's the one that took the nectar from the demons by her attractiveness. And she is Krishna also. Krishna expanded himself because the demons had gained control over the devotees. And this happens over and over and over again too. And see, this is what I'm saying happened with American history being wiped out by my own people. The race of people I have been born into wiped out the histories of many peoples, which reveal their connection from the beginning to God. And this is the suffering now my race of people is having to go through. Without the knowledge of the connection, we are all suffering to an extent of what we would be experiencing if the whole earth was covered with knowledge of God, like it's supposed to be, like it was at one time. And by fighting against each other, we limit ourselves more and more and more from being able to experience the totality of the kind of consciousness Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is explaining that we should be having in friendship with one another. And now I'm getting the realization. See, before I came to the movement, because when you live in a cave, and every time you want to eat, you got to go to town. Nothing's growing out in the wild of the deserts, you know. You start to reason in your mind, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to eat? Right?
Yeah.
And so I had reasoned that for some time. And so when you have that reasoning and you have that desire, because it's not a desire for sense gratification, it's desire to be able to use the time you have for more productive things, like chanting, praying, or reading or studying. So, there is a truth. When I came to the movement, I found on such a yuga, they live off the air. They don't need food, and they live for 100,000 years. Oh! But they have different bodies, and they're 50 feet tall. Their bodies don't function. See, just like this Veena that Krishna has handed to Narada. We can look at a Veena here and say, oh, there's a Veena. Not the same thing at all. See, and so similarly, once a devotee comes to a level of consciousness where he begins to adopt the consciousness that is pleasing the Supersoul, Supersoul starts filling his mind with that which will lead him to the fulfillment of that which the soul is being attracted to, which is the truth of God, the person of God, the love of God. That's what we're all being attracted to. And then what can happen is, which evidently, I don't know, to make this statement about Narada's Veena. It's possible it wasn't always in that form, and that the form it was previously manifesting as in that spiritual realm could have been as a peacock, could have been another bird. But it says Krishna empowered the Veena by his spoken word. Similarly, all that we see being done by mankind is done first by the mind, and then by spoken word. All these forms that have come into existence have come into existence by first thought, but then manifest by sound vibration created by words. That's how Bhagavatam is calling the whole world, the world of names. And this is what man is using to manipulate the material energy, names, and affiliating himself with what names are pleasing to him and not. And he aims for those things that are, and avoids those things that are not. It's all things of name, and it's all dealing with this consciousness. We have a big storage place in our minds where we store things that we remember our experiences of, whether it was good or favorable, whether we will go there again or not, whether we like the people there, whether those people reflect upon us in the future, the people we might see that have similar likenesses. All these things are going on through our mind, through our interaction with other souls who are also interacting with the purpose of finding pleasure with the material energy in this world. So now as devotees, that's why we've got to hold this in our mind that we have something to give. We have something greater to give than anybody has in the material realm, in the material sense, to be able to satisfy us with. We have something greater than they have, than anybody can give us, by knowing Paramatma. And so, not to say Guru doesn't also have Paramatma, but by having Paramatma, we have the equal. We have the greatest there can be to be given then, so that we don't have to go out looking for what they can give us, because all they have to give us is that which they have, which is their bondage and tight grasp on holding to that which is making them slaves to the material energy and the driving constant demands of the mind and the physical senses of the body. Got to see this, got to do this, want to hear that, want to see this. All the mind controlling the soul. Yeah. Then when we can bring the mind to Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Simultaneously, while we do that, we open ourselves up to the greatest experiences of consciousness that the soul is able, in this human form that we have, to experience. But it will enable us to have access to that in the future, which this body doesn't offer at the present time. That's total Krishna consciousness, love for Krishna, 100%. Prashadam Tam. Any realizations, any comments, any questions? I hope this is...
I didn't know that Today we asked for something like that before. We used to have a Sarigama.
Yeah. So when a person is learning Mridanga, they're saying those different sounds as well. Mridanga has a different one than harmonium does. But it's the same. It's like a ruler is. Some rulers are put into meters, some rulers are put into inches and feet, right? But they're both rulers. So like this use of measurement, measuring sounds, measuring meters, measuring beats, these kinds of things. That's what they're used for. But in the spiritual world, see, there's a carryover. So we study them here, and that same function of learning them is there in the spiritual world. Only the learning will be applied to, as you bring up, a more perfect scale than what we are accustomed to using here.
Science is called temperament. Temperament.
Yeah. Temperance also is one of those qualities that allow us to, what do you say? Tolerate. Toleration is a quality that it requires maturity and exposure. The more exposure we have to extremes, the more we're able to tolerate those kinds, right?
Like tolerances.
Yeah. So the more you lift, the less it seems difficult to lift, right? Like that. The more you study, the more you have in your mind to compare other studies with when you do future study. So the more study you do, the more exponentially you grow as well. Because the more you have to be with, isn't it? Yeah, we're very fortunate.
Very straight.
And look at this age. What limit is there now to knowledge? Is there anything you feel limited to be able to not have access to? It's like, you want to know what Lord Buddha said? You just type it up and boom, it's right there. You want to know what Lord Jesus said? Type it up and find what it said there. You want to know what Lord Chaitanya said? Type it in. It's amazing. And yet, for as available as it is, we don't take full advantage and we don't share. I shouldn't speak for everybody, but it doesn't seem to me like we're in the age where people would walk 20 miles to hear from these words when they can sit at their home and push a button and hear the same thing. So it makes the dedication on the part of people. But, I mean, there's many ways of looking at that. It enables you to have time to do more things. Everything has a different perspective to be seen in. And that's where tolerance takes place in a person's mind who has had enough experience with particularities about people. And they come to realize, if I was born in the same place you were born, at the same time you were born, walked the same walk you walked all your life, I would be drawing the same conclusions you're drawing now. So that allows us to have tolerance, which probably keeps those criminal minds from being rehabilitated as other human beings' ability to tolerate their intolerance, which is what criminals have, is intolerance of other human beings. And there's not a tolerant human being enough to be able to tolerate their intolerance. All glory to your service for the most. Shrimadbhagavatam, Shrimadbhagavatam, Shrimadbhagavatam.